You're watching VinylicPumaGaming. Hey guys, so it's been a really long time since I've made a Borderlands 2 in the pre-sequel countdown, but I figured we could talk about some of what I would consider to be the best Easter egg weapons from both games. Now, before we get into this video, I would consider an Easter egg weapon to be something that's far more involved than a weapon that contains a pop culture reference. As an example, the chopper has the red text, "Get to it," which is a reference to the movie Predator. The little Evie, on the other hand, is a reference to Bioshock. However, it's also part of an elaborate Easter egg that features a specific group of enemies that you need to farm in order to get one. Or in the case of the Law & Order, you have to complete a quest that is reminiscent of crime dramas like Law & Order and CSI Miami. Now, this video will contain about 3 weapons from the pre-sequel. However, assume that every other weapon is from Borderlands 2, unless directly mentioned. So, without further ado, these will be what I think are the top 10 best Easter egg guns and weapons in Borderlands 2 in the pre-sequel, starting now. Number 10. Gwen's head and Gwen's other head. So, Gwen's head and Gwen's other head are Easter egg weapons that reference the movie Seven, starring Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman. If you haven't seen the movie yet, this Easter egg is essentially a spoiler. However, with that said, you've had at least 20 years to see the film if you have not done so, and for some of you watching, you've had your entire life to watch the movie. Seriously guys, I am gonna spoil it. During the movie, Gwyneth Paltrow plays Brad Pitt's wife, and at the end of the movie, Gwen's head is found in a box. Now, for Borderlands 2, Gwen's head is found in a special box that spawns in various random locations across the dust, and in the pre-sequel, Gwen's other head spawns much like the original. However, these boxes are found in the Titan Industrial Facility. As weapons, both of these are fairly bizarre. The original Gwen's head is a dual pistol that has increased damage, mag size, and better critical hit bonus. However, it contains the Hyperion pistol barrel and T-Door grip, which are known for reducing damage and magazine size respectively. Gwen's other head, on the other hand, has superior weapon parts. However, it has a projectile pattern which always sends the second projectile to the left. This trait will cause the player to miss constantly, and for that reason, these guns are decent in the early game, but you may want to avoid them later on. Number 9. The Bright Spadroon. So, Toby's Bright Spadroon is a pretty awesome sword-style Mal-1 laser that only comes in shock elements. It is unique in the sense that it has fairly high base damage and continuous damage bonus at the expense of terrible range. The Bright Spadroon is part of an entire quest from the pre-sequel known as These Are the Bots, located in Virago Solitude. The quest involves escorting ICUP and RTFC across the map to a man named Toby Van Adobe so they can deliver him a message, much like C-3PO and R2-D2 do in Star Wars: A New Hope. The only problem I have with this particular laser is that it really lacks range. While you can quickly make up for this range in low gravity, you may find this to be more of a problem in areas with higher gravity. And I also think that by the time you actually beat the game, you're going to find that the Spadroon is largely inferior to the old Rosie laser. However, it's a nice laser to have toward the end of each playthrough that you decide to do, and you may also like this weapon for Saronic Storm Athena as well. Number 8. The Bone Shredder. So, just like the Tannis Easter egg for Borderlands 2, Bonehead 2.0 is an Easter egg for the original Borderlands. In the very first Borderlands, you could encounter an enemy from one of the very first in-game areas known as Bonehead, and upon defeating him, he would drop a unique weapon known as the Bone Shredder. Now, the original Bone Shredder would fire 2 projectiles per shot. However, after the $100,000 loot hunt event, the Borderlands 2 version now fires 3 projectiles per shot. In Borderlands 2, the Bone Shredder was relatively accurate. However, the original incarnation of the Bone Shredder for Borderlands 2 lacked much of that same accuracy. Hence, adding that 3rd projectile greatly improved the weapon, and if you can get a slag version, you can use it as a poor man's slagga. Otherwise, the Bone Shredder can come in all elemental variants if you want a specific version. And it should also be mentioned that the Bone Shredder appears under a different name in the pre-sequel, as it is called the Meat Grinder. Interestingly, there's also a combat rifle from the very first Borderlands called the Meat Grinder. However, it doesn't fire multiple projectiles per shot. Again, if you want the Bone Shredder, you just have to go to the Arid Nexus Badlands and defeat Bonehead 2.0 to get this gun to drop. Number 7. The Little Evie. Sadly, this may be our only DLC weapon on this countdown. However, the little Evie is a reference to Eve from the original Bioshock. And in proper Easter egg fashion, this Easter egg spawns with its own corresponding set of enemies named Mr. Bubbles and Lil Sis. In order to get this gun, you will need to kill Mr. Bubbles without dealing any damage to Lil Sis, and once you've done that, you should get the opportunity to talk to Lil Sis, and she will simply hand you the gun. Basically, the little Evie is a Maliwan pistol that only comes in shock and fires projectiles in a slight arc. Upon killing enemies, you get boosted action skill cooldown, and this can be really useful for all characters. However, I would say it's probably most notable on Maya, as she has a very short cooldown already. Speaking of action skill cooldown, there is a glitch that allows the player to instantly recharge their action skill upon scoring a kill. Simply fire the weapon until the magazine is empty, and during the reload animation, swap the gun with another weapon. If you do it right, swap back to the little Evie and repeat this process over and over. If you're unsure, just look up Evil Smasher glitch on YouTube. Overall though, this is a pretty nice gun that's fun to mess around with. While I wish the damage and or range was a little bit better, I think you could certainly do much worse with other weapons. As previously stated, make sure to defeat Bubbles without hurting Lil Sis and you should be good. Number 6. The E-Gun. So the E-Gun and its associated quests located in sub-level 13 are a reference to Ghostbusters because during the quest, the E-Gun is used to defeat ghost-type enemies. In general, the E-Gun is pretty strange as it's a Maliwan weapon that deals non-elemental damage. Otherwise, it functions very similarly to a Maliwan-style laser as it benefits from continuous damage bonus. It also spawns as a sight-none weapon, so you can move much faster than you otherwise would while aiming down sights. And you may also find that you like the damage of this particular weapon when compared to some of the generic non-unique Maliwan lasers that you can get early on. Of course, while you won't perform on par with the All Rosie or the Absolute Zero, it has the benefit of not requiring you to beat the game to get or to get lucky at the end of the Claptastic Voyage DLC. My only complaint is that, like many other weapons in Borderlands the pre-sequel, it spawns with fixed parts. And I've always found this annoying, as I like getting the versions of weapons with a different grip for better damage, or maybe a weapon sight if I want one. Even still, the associated quest is pretty fun, and as stated previously, all you have to do is go and talk to Pickle in Outlands Canyon when the sub-level 13 quest becomes available. Number 5. The Blockhead. This shotgun is one of 2 guns that are part of the Minecraft Easter egg. As should be expected, the Blockhead can only come in fire and drops from badass creepers located in the Caustic Caverns. The Blockhead fires fireballs in a 3x3 pattern, and the fireballs can ricochet off of different surfaces, however they explode as they come into contact with enemies. This is a pretty nice shotgun as it has a very consistent 3x3 projectile pattern which makes hip firing pretty accurate, and even if you miss, you may find that this isn't too much of an issue indoors as the projectiles can ricochet off of surfaces. While the Blockhead projectiles don't travel on ricochets forever, they do travel far enough for most applications. This shotgun is generally pretty good on most characters, however you may find that you like it on Krieg if you've got a Hellborn/Bloodlust hybrid build. Oddly, the reload damage on the Blockhead is outpaced by the Octo, which is a shotgun that I would generally consider to be inferior. But if you're not playing a TD or accident build, I don't think that's going to be too much of a problem for you. And that said, the fireballs are boosted by grenade damage bonus, so if you're using the Blockhead as Axton as a more conventional weapon, then you should be good. This may be a gun that you will want to farm for later on once you've reached max level. As mentioned previously, make sure to kill the badass creepers located in Caustic Caverns. Number 4. The Law and Order. Now, I know these are 2 separate items, one of which is a pistol and the other is a shield, however they are a reference and or Easter egg for the Law and Order TV show. The Law is obtained upon completing the side quest known as Won't Get Fooled Again, and the Order shield is acquired upon completing the BFF side quest. The key, however, is to equip both of these items at the same time to get the most out of the effects that they provide. The Law is the best melee weapon in Borderlands 2 before any DLC, and the Order shield is a relatively powerful roid shield with decent roid damage. When both are combined, melee attacks will begin to heal the player for a portion of melee damage dealt. In the early game, this can prove to be a great alternative to either a bladed ruby or grog nozzle, as you're getting superior melee damage overall, however less healing. Later on, both the bladed ruby and the grog nozzle will ultimately be superior, plus you get the flexibility of using whatever roid shield that you want. Even still, this is a pretty neat Easter egg for Borderlands 2 that features its own weapon and shield and corresponding quests. And early on, both the Law and Order are pretty nice. Number 3. The Longbow. This sniper is the other of 2 guns that are a part of the Minecraft Easter egg, the other weapon being the Blockhead that we discussed earlier. Technically, I suppose the Longbow is an E-Tech sniper rifle, however, it fires Minecraft arrows at enemies that deal fire damage upon contact. In general, the Longbow actually sports pretty good damage and has pretty good ammo consumption when compared to many other E-Tech sniper rifles. Also, unlike other E-Tech sniper rifles, the Longbow doesn't have awful critical hit bonus and is capable of dishing out the pain. It certainly does have its weaknesses though. The lack of a weapon scope certainly makes the Longbow much harder to use, and the inherent weapon sway of Hyperion weapons can make things especially difficult if you're playing with a lower field of view. I would say the biggest advantage of the Longbow though is its elemental exclusivity. The ability to only come and fire limits the weapon's ability to mostly fire vulnerable enemies. And while there are a lot of them throughout the game, you may wish you had a shock or corrosive weapon for other situations. In my opinion, the Longbow is the best of the scopeless sniper rifles. While the Buffalo is fairly decent and the Elephant Gun is also good, the problem with both of these weapons is that they are non-elemental, thus they don't benefit from a Bone of the Ancients relic, and they're both bolt actions, which makes them terrible if you want something with better DPS, especially up against enemies that are vulnerable to fire-type damage. But like the Blockhead, you can get the Longbow in Caustic Caverns by killing the badass creeper there. Number 2. The Excalibastard. So, the Excalibastard laser is an Easter egg or cultural reference to the legend and mythos behind King Arthur and the Knights of the Round. King Arthur had a prized sword named Excalibur, and for Borderlands the pre-sequel, the player can obtain the Excalibastard from Stanton's liver on a ledge before you cross into the main settlement. The Excalibastard is a Hyperion railgun laser that always comes in cryo, and when you score a critical hit, it freezes your enemies. In other words, critical hits have a near 100% chance to freeze, and if you kill a frozen enemy with a melee attack, it causes a singularity which pulls enemies in. After that, the weapon emits a cryonova, further damaging enemies with the possibility to freeze them. And really in general, the Excalibastard is a pretty great weapon for melee Athena, as the cryonovas and singularities draw enemies in to make them easy to finish off with the weapon. I also think that you'll find it's a great weapon for more long-distance combat as well, since it's very accurate and is pretty much like a conventional sniper rifle in that regard. My only complaint is that I wish you could obtain the weapon more than once. Make sure that before you try to pull this laser out of the stone, that you have at least 2500 badass rank. Also, remember that you can only do this once per character, so it may be best to wait until you reach maximum level. Number 1. The Gunang. So, the Gunang is one of the few legendaries in Borderlands 2 that is a part of its own little Easter egg. In the fridge, you can find a specific enemy named Rackman, and if you farm him enough, you get the chance of having a Gunang pistol drop. The Gunang is a pretty powerful pistol for TDO reloads, and may actually be one of the higher reload damage weapons along with the Omen, Babymaker, and the Avenger. However, it tends to deal the most damage provided the player is facing another enemy one-on-one. Multiple enemies tend to confuse the weapon, and you'll find that the Gunang is going to be best up against somebody like Hyperius. Another advantage the Gunang has going for it is that it can come in multiple elements, and ideally, if you could get a jam-packed version with either a TDO or banded grip, then I would say you've got yourself one of the better versions. There is also a Gunang clone from the pre-sequel called the Shooterang. To be honest, I don't really like it quite as much as the Gunang. Now, that's not to say it's a bad weapon. I just ultimately prefer and wish 2K Australia and Gearbox left the Gunang as it is. If you're curious about this gun, I recommend you check around YouTube for some Gunang kills for the various raid bosses in the game, as some of them are quite impressive. The Gunang can be used to amazing effect by TDO Reload Axton, and you may find it fun to try these kills yourself. Again, just keep an eye out for Rackman in the fridge if you want a Gunang in Borderlands 2. Alright guys, I think that's going to pretty much wrap up this particular video. If you like this video, please be sure to leave a like and let me know, what is your favorite Easter egg gunner weapon in the game? Or just tell me what your favorite Easter egg is in Borderlands 2. Or even the pre-sequel if you want. But otherwise guys, like this video if you liked it, click the bell to join the notification squad, and as always, take care, and I'll see you all next time.